Do, 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 do. Oh yeah, there it is. We have been waiting for this for so long, and finally I can show you new Sony's A7IV. And check this out, I have been shooting with this camera for the past couple of weeks actually, including a massive 3-day wedding shoot in Madeira that I shot for Sony for this launch. And I can't wait to show you all the behind the scenes, my thoughts on this camera, and tell you all about it. And I have to warn you, it's everything that we wanted and even more. So let's just get right into it. Hello everyone, my name is Magic. I'm a wedding photographer, Sony Europe ambassador, and father of 4 children. Welcome to my YouTube channel, the channel about weddings, photography, and gear. So consider subscribing if you haven't already. And yes, we do have a new Sony A7IV. Also, I have a new flash right here that I'm going to briefly talk about later in this video. But this is what you guys came for. Sony A7IV new camera. And a quick disclosure before we get into all the details about this camera. So I have been Sony Europe ambassador for past 3 years or 4 years maybe. And I just got this opportunity to not only test this camera beforehand, but also to provide photos and videos for the launch of this camera. So I'm beyond excited that I could be a part of this launch, and you can watch all these videos on like the Sony channel. I just link it everywhere, and that's official stuff provided by me because Sony asked me to do it. This video that you are watching right now, this is my personal channel. This is my review of the camera. Like, since I have been using it for almost a month now, I can share with you my thoughts. Sony didn't ask me to make this video. They didn't paid me to make this video or anything like that. And actually, we do have another sponsor of this video, which is Wooden Banana, but more on that later on. Now let's talk A7IV. So that is a long-awaited successor to A7 III that actually, I think, changed the wedding industry and wedding photographers and basically the creative industry in the last 3 years. There were so many people moving to Sony because A7 III was so affordable and so powerful. And let's see if this one takes the crown for, from A7 III for the best all-around camera in a Sony system. So let's start with the body design. So the camera has a very similar build to all the new Sony cameras. So we have a bigger grip, bigger from A7 III, A7R III, but also like slightly tiny bigger than A9 Mark II that I'm comparing it with right now. So that is very comfortable grip. We have improved buttons, like all the buttons are bigger. So that is very comfortable in the hands. And also, that this back wheel is improved, something that I was kind of waiting for, because like on A7R III, whenever I turn the wheel like this, watching the photos, like every now and then I clicked something and it changed, stopped like showing photos and changed to volume or anything like that. So in this camera, it's more sturdy, everything is more clicky, and it feels great in the hands. There's like few new things regarding the body design itself. So first of all, we have a new dial that used to be a exposure compensation dial. Like it still is set up as default as exposure a compensation dial, but now it doesn't have any limits or it doesn't have any markings. So you can just rotate it like 360 all the time. And now from the menu, you can actually customize it and have it doing other things than just exposure compensation. So that's just another dial now. What else is new? So we have this new dial also underneath the mode dial. So mode dial showed the classic PASM. And now we have 1, 2, 3. So 3 custom, operations here. I think A7 III had just only 2, so that's 1 more from A7 III. But now it doesn't have video on it. The video is underneath, which I at first found confusing, and I was like, what the heck? But then I realized that it's very convenient because now you can switch to video mode and still use mode dial to change to aperture priority or manual. In the position of C1 button, we now have record button, and C1 is where the record button was. So my muscle memory for the last 3 years is constantly clicking on this to change the white balance. So I actually went to the menu and set it back to C1 to white balance. So I have white balance on this button. But for the video, like whenever I switch to video, it goes back to recording. So you can actually set it up the way you want. So just so you know, regarding all these settings that I personally have for this camera, I'm going to be doing like a full walkthrough of all the settings that I set up, all the custom operations that I have for my wedding work. So, you know, stay tuned, subscribe and all that stuff if you want to see that video. Screen now goes like this, okay? So that is something we already know from A7S3 and something that we already know from A7 C. And at first I was skeptical when I heard that it's going to have this tilty screen, because when using A7S3 or FX3 for some video work that I briefly done last year, I realized that for video I don't like that the screen goes like this. I would prefer it to go like this, because then I'm taking all the videos, you know, sort of like this, so keeping my horizon straight is easier when holding camera like this. But for the photo work, actually I do most of my stuff through the viewfinder. But then when I have to reach from the top or the bottom, this comes really in handy. And I learned that hard on this 3-day shoot that I shot like a couple thousand of photos, and it was really helpful to have the screen tilts like this for photo work. So I'm all in for that screen right now. Also has the improved resolution known from other Sony cameras. Original A7 III had less resolution, and this one has more. And then the viewfinder. The viewfinder is also new. It is improved. There are two things about the viewfinder that are improved. First of all, you can set it to a high frame rate mode, which gives you like more smooth view. So yeah, it does 120 frames per second. But then you can also set it up to a high resolution mode. So that is actually something that I was waiting for in this type of camera, because like whenever you are looking through the viewfinder before taking a shot, you see that very crystal clear image, just like you would be previewing the image. Okay, and now on this side, you do have the regular microphone input, the headphones input, the USB-C and a micro USB, but then you also have full HDMI. So yep, happy times, full HDMI. And on this side, you have a new doors, known from all the newer models, and 2 card slots. Both of them are SD UHS 2 card slot, and one of them also takes these new CFA cards. And what does it actually mean in like a real life, you know, wedding photography situation? Most of wedding photographers, if not all of them, are shooting, you know, simultaneously to 2 cards. So they shoot RAW and RAW to both cards. This is how we should shoot, right? If we have the opportunity to have a backup right away while shooting, not relying on those little SD cards to die, that's like mandatory for wedding photography, at least in my opinion. Okay, so when you load 2 SD cards, the fast ones, then the camera, you know, clears the buffer at the same time for both of the cards, and you should compress RAW 10 frames per second. The camera goes like this, and it goes, and it goes, and it goes, and then it stops after maybe taking 50 images. It gets slower, but it don't stop taking the images. You can still take images, but a little slower. And then if you release a shutter for like even a second, it will let you go on and go on and go on. So that's pretty much going indefinitely, maybe not at full speed, because you go like 50 images at full speed, then few images at a slower speed, then back to full speed. So it goes like this, okay? The situation changes if you're gonna use the fast card on slot number 1, but then keep in mind that you lose the simultaneously recording thing to 2 cards. Then you can just go to the 1 card. Then you can shoot 10 frames per second, like with basically no limit. You just go. If you do mix of the cards and the top card you take CFA, and the low slot you get the fastest SD there is, you're still gonna have to wait for the camera, you know, for like after taking those 50 images, because it still has to clear the buffer to the slower card. So that is the case that I will be using the camera, doing either two really fast SDs or CFA and SD, and check this out, because that's actually quite important. Why would I need the CFA card if I'm still shooting two slots? Okay, because I don't get advantage of clearing the buffer immediately. There is one big reason for that. For those of you who are shooting a lot of weddings, for those of you who are shooting back-to-back weddings, you all know this, that you come back from a wedding at night, maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you have to, you know, import your cards, back up your cards and stuff like that, and every minute counts, because it's 2 a.m., you have to get up early, and you want to have the backup. At least I do it like that. And then it makes a difference, like how long it will take to copy the cards to your computer. And if you get the CFA card, it will be 3 times faster than SD card. So what I would be doing is having CFA and SD as backup, and CFA would be the card that I'm using to import the images to my computer, so I can do it in 10 minutes instead of 30 minutes. That's a huge difference. So that for me is actually worth the investment in these super blazing fast cards. Okay, and with that buffer, we actually get a smooth transition to a technical part of this review. So what technically this camera has to offer. It has like 33 megapixels. If you read all these rumors in the last few weeks, you probably already know that. So 33 megapixels, which is like 1/3 more than A9 or A7 III, which is a happy sweet spot for me. So again, I was shooting A7R IIIs because 24 megapixels was never enough for me. I always wanted a bit more, and 33 for me, sweet spot. Love it. It does shoot 10 frames per second, but it does it only on compressed RAWs. So that is something to keep in mind. For me, not a problem at all. I shoot compressed RAWs all the time. I always shot compressed RAWs and never bother myself shooting uncompressed. But keep in mind, with uncompressed RAW, the camera is not as fast. The sensor is said to have improved color balance and color renderization. I've shot thousands of images on this camera, but I couldn't open them in Lightroom. So I couldn't play with the sliders. The only software that opens them is the Imagine Edge from Sony, which still is not perfect for getting those colors. So while the JPEGs, they look great and they are very promising, I don't have my full opinion yet on the colors. So the photos you are looking right now are actually the RAWs edited through Imagine Edge, exported at TIFFs, and then treated with Lightroom. So this is not my perfect treatment and edit or color processing on these images. Keep that in mind. And I'm planning to make a big editing video on all of these files from this shoot on Lightroom as soon as Lightroom gets updated to support this camera. So also stay tuned for that video. That's going to be an awesome video. So also while looking at these photos, you might want to get my presets if you want. There's a link in the description to buy my presets, and make sure you go and check my Instagram. I'm going to be showing more of these photos on my Instagram. So @MagicWeddingPhotographer is my Instagram, and I'm going to be doing a Q&A in my Insta stories today and tomorrow. So make sure you check this out. If you're interested in this camera, I'm going to show you more behind the scenes stuff over there as well. Let's take a look at these photos with today's sponsor, so Wooden Banana. So if you don't know what Wooden Banana is, Wooden Banana is a company that made these boxes for wedding photographers. So for the past few years, I have been using their boxes. They have awesome boxes with my logos engraved on it. Again, with my logos engraved on it, I put prints on them. If you watched my video of what I have in my bag, I always have this little, Wooden Banana box in red color that I put Instax photos in it. And also that company is run by my close friend Mark Pakura. So I trust this company 100%. And recently, Wooden Banana came up with albums. Check this out, the albums for wedding photographers. So if you want to treat your clients with albums, this is the way to go. Check this out. Check out how beautiful this is. This is the box with gold engraving, and you see this material, you can draw on it. It's perfect. I love it. And let's just briefly look at these images. And if you want to check this out, Wooden Banana has amazing guide, like all the albums they provide and all the stuff that you can make with the albums. The link is in the description. Also, you can get your sample at 40% off. So highly recommend this company. Okay, back to the photo quality of A7IV. The next part is ISO. Again, I couldn't treat RAWs, but I shot a lot of JPEG samples with different ISO, comparing to A7R3 that I have on me, to A9 II, and to FX3 actually. And it seems like even though we have more megapixels with A7IV, the ISO performance is as good as A9 Mark II. So that's a plus. You can check all the JPEG samples of ISO in the description as well. There's a link for that. Next, let's speak about silent shutter, because this is a big feature for wedding photographers, being able to shoot like completely silent. So of course, Sony A7IV has a silent shutter option, electronic shutter, but it's not as efficient as A1 in terms of not creating a banding, because it doesn't have a stacked sensor. So it's gonna perform similarly to other A7 cameras, but it does have option to turn on the variable shutter. This is like this high frequency anti-flicker mode. So you can fine tune the shutter speed to match, you know, the flickering of the lights, the LED lights and the fluorescent lights and probably the screens and stuff like that. And I'm not sure how practical this is. I have never used it in like the practical, you know, scenario at wedding or something like that. But possibly you can eliminate or minimize the flicker in your photos when shooting under certain conditions. So that's something it has. There is silent shutter, there is anti-flicker, there's high frequency anti-flicker. The silent shutter is not as good as A1 or A9 cameras. Now, autofocus. Like, I'm not sure if you guys are ready for this, but this camera has 795 autofocus points, so just like A1 with real-time tracking AF for human, birds, and animals, so just like A1. And I come bearing news that it is awesome. I've used it extensively. I shot tons of the photos, and for the type of work I do, so capturing humans walking towards me or, you know, moving fast, I was trying to, you know, stress this camera. Again, I was doing sort of the same stuff I tried with A1, trying to find a way for this camera not to focus. I had people like going crazy in front of my screen. And actually, take a look at this series of images. So again, I had the couple walking towards me. I locked on the subject. I locked on the face of the groom, and I kept it there. So I was just holding the shutter while they were walking towards me. Okay, so you see how it just follows the subject, whatever he's doing. And now let's look at the images. Keep in mind that I am shooting at f1.4. So I'm going like crazy shallow depth of field on this. And every single image like is sharp until maybe they get really close to me and he turns back to me. So camera sort of loses him. But other than that, the camera goes crazy. This camera is crazy. It does remind me actually of shooting A1, so like in terms of capabilities of the autofocus system, which is just unreal, because this is what, like basic model, and A1 is like the high-end model. So props to Sony for incorporating the AF system. So I have to say, this is a pretty rad camera. We like with all these upgrades, we have 33 megapixel, amazing buffer, 2 really fast card slots, like tilde screen, new viewfinder, amazing AF system. And then on top of that, we get the video features. So we have 4K, 4K 30 and 4K 60, but 60 only in APS-C mode. We'll get into that in a second. But then 422 10-bit with all the codecs now from A7IV and all the profiles. So we also have a Cinetone and a real-time tracking in video, which is mind-blowing. So the video features of this camera are amazing. So the only downside would be that 4K 60 would require a crop. I know some of you might be bummed about it. Personally, for me, as I'm mainly a photographer and I do shoot video very occasionally, and then I shoot video like this, a talking head. What this camera has is all I need from the camera. And if I need that 60p, I'm gonna switch to a crop mode, because I can, you know, use 24G master and shoot like 35, and it's gonna be exactly the same what I would do, because I never get wider than a 35 shooting videos. So for me, it's amazing to have that 10 bits, so we can play around with the colors and all that, you know, sliders a little bit more on this file. So that's a big win for me. And then a full HDMI port that I said before, amazing. Speaking of video, it can stream via USB in 4K. Okay, that is crazy as well. So a very modern type of camera, ready for all these, you know, streaming stuff that we are doing right now. That's our life, right? So that is Sony A7IV, and just few words about the flash. There are, I guess, 2 new flashes. I have one. I have the smaller one, and if you guys know me, you know I am a simple flash shooter. I will mount the flash on the body and just, you know, shoot like this or bounce light like this. But there are 3 qualities with this flash that I really like. So first of all, the smaller one is really small and lightweight, yet very powerful. It can shoot bursts like crazy, so it never missed any shot when I was, you know, shooting like series of photos. And then the last but not least, check this out. So there's a new hot shoe that has like a different material. It's way more sturdy than the previous hot shoe, and I like it very much. So that's a really nice upgrade in a flash department of Sony. So this is it, Sony A7IV, a killer camera. I am definitely getting 2 of these. They are gonna land in my bag. I'm gonna replace my good old A7R3s, and I can't wait to shoot more stuff with this. I'm gonna be doing more videos on this camera. I'm doing comparisons with other cameras. I'm doing the editing video. I'm gonna do a full walkthrough of the menu and how to set it up for weddings. So if you are interested in this type of stuff, feel free to, you know, stay here for longer. Just click that subscribe button, and yeah. So hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching, and yeah, cheers, baby.